So you are the new deputy leader of the Green Party as of a month ago. How would you rate the party out of 10 in the last month under Zach Polanski?
Right now, we're just on an absolutely upward trajectory. We're flying. Out of 10, I think we're probably a solid 9. But I think we're going to smash that 10 barrier very soon. And we'll keep that scale going higher and higher.
How do you think the party will do in next May's local elections? Because you're a councillor, you're somebody that knocks on lots of doors canvassing.
I'm feeling very positive. As well as canvassing my local ward, I've been up and down the country over the last month. We've been to Cardiff, we've been to London, we've been to Hastings. You know, people are looking for change. And when they're seeing green canvassers at the doorstep and they're engaging and they're seeing that there's something different out there than the main two parties, they're really bouncing off that. They're bouncing off that energy. And I think we're going to really break through this year.
What's the response like when you're canvassing from people in Hare Hills or nearby wards as a Green? It's a question I posed to Zach Polanski earlier on. They listen to what you're saying on cost of living, bills, all the things that Zach was centering in his speech earlier on today. NHS. They say, I agree with you on all of that, but the fact you're not even willing to touch immigration, you're not willing to be explicit on problems regarding law and order and social behaviour, which in places like Hare Hills, people really care about, densely populated areas. They care about that stuff more because there's more of it. What do you say to them? How do you respond? They say you're not listening when it comes to migration.
I've never heard them say that. I've never heard people talk about that on the doorstep. I think what's often online and what's spread in the media is different to what affects people in real life. I share this story quite often. I knocked on one door and the resident at the other end called me the P word and said he's not going to vote for me because of that. So I stood there and I asked him why and what's the problem. And his problem wasn't about race, his problem wasn't about religion, it wasn't anything about that. It was a problem about fly tipping. His real anger was coming because there was a patch of green space at the end of his road that was used as a fly tipping site. So we got that cleaned up. I knocked on his door again, had another conversation. He was angry still, but he was willing to engage a little bit more. After I got voted in, I was walking past the street. He came out of his house. He saw me leafleting. He came out of his house and said, "I voted for you." That's the difference that a Green councillor can make on the doorstep.
Do you think social media is nonsense?
I don't think it's nonsense. I think it creates hostility where there doesn't need to be. Right? That interaction really changed my mind changed my perception of what is out there. There's so much chatter about immigrants, about Muslims, about black and brown people. And when you have that interaction and say, okay, what's your real issue? Let's get to the bottom of it. And that's the thing I like about Greens as well, is they're willing to listen and have that conversation. And that's how we change people. And that's how we build a cohesive society. Is we've got people who are angry. And the reason they're angry is because their living standards are dropping. People are struggling. I represent one of the poorest wards in the country. I get calls all the time from people who can't feed their children, who don't have school uniforms, people who are really, really at the bottom. Now, it's very easy to feed them a narrative and say, okay, there's a problem and it's being caused by immigrants and it's being caused by black and brown people and it's being caused by Muslims. It's very easy to sell them that story. What's more difficult is to tackle a real problem that changes their life. And that's what we need to do. And that's what responsible politicians need to do.
So somebody might be listening to that, this reform curious voter who wants change on privatisation and runaway, wealth and elite capture of democracy and all those things. But they would say, look, Mothin, in 2023, this country had 900,000 net immigration, which is to say not 900,000 people came to the UK net plus 900,000 people, but we're building 100,000 homes, 150,000 homes. Clearly, immigration is going to have an impact on availability of housing and the cost of housing. And that is just supply and demand. What would you say to them?
I'm from Leeds, close by. We've got cities like Bradford. Massive industrial town, it used to be. Really heart of the north. It's been allowed to collapse. We've got lots and lots of brownfield site that's crumbling. Why aren't we refurbishing that? Why are we not building the council housing? Why are we not turning those old mills into nice apartments? Why aren't we building council houses? Why aren't we controlling the amount of Airbnbs? You know, this is a huge problem, that people are actually taking homes off the market to rent out, and they're not being lived in for most of the time. So you talk about supply and demand, and it's quite simplistic to just say supply and demand.
It is simplistic, but that's what voters will think, right?
But there's all these other levels of the problem. We should be building more houses. We should be refurbishing towns. We should be building these towns back up. You know, I was born in Sheffield. I worked in a takeaway in Goldthorpe, an old pit village. So when the mines were closed, that whole generation of people were wiped out of the employment cycle, you know, the employment market. Their children have never worked because there's no opportunities there. The only opportunity is to leave. There's towns like that can be regenerated. There's lots of options, lots of political choices that are just not being made. Industry is not being replaced. So, yes, there is going to be an increased demand from the increased population, but those people are also contributing to this country. You know, it's often cited NHS would fall down if it wasn't for immigration. The doctors, the nurses. Immigration, this country has been built off the back of immigration. My dad came here in the 60s. My granddad came here at the same time. You know, they literally made the steel that built this country.
They worked in steel mills?
Yeah. So they literally made the steel that built this country back up after the Second World War.
So when voters say, I get this too, so I feel comfortable saying it to you. When you have a voter say, go home, how does that make you feel? Your granddad was making steel in this country before they were even born.
I mean, where do you want me to go? I'm a Yorkshire lad through and through. Yeah. I was born in Sheffield. My dad worked in the steel mills. I live in Leeds. Where do you want me to go?
That would be your response to them.
I mean, it's the simple response is, where do you want me to go? But that's the thing about people who are second, third generation. Whereas I see them as Yorkshire as anyone else. You know? We're part and parcel. We're the fabric of this society. Where do you want us to go?
Do you think the left in the last 10, 15 years has made that mistake of thinking that some people are better than others? Because if, again, and I know I sound like I'm ventriloquizing lots of right-wing arguments, but I'm doing that precisely because for the Greens to become a mass national party, these are the things they need to take on, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say, you look at the polling, you look at Zach, you look at you, look at Rachel, you're going to win seats the next election, my view. Could be wrong, long way to go. You might get 10, 15 seats, maybe more. But the argument they would make is that the left, the progressive left, the graduate left, has effectively viewed some people as more important than others. People in places like where you're from, post-industrial Britain, older Brits, tend more likely to be white, they would say they have been put on a lower pedestal than people like you and me, university graduates, the South, the London political and media class. They roll it all up into one. Do you think the left has made any mistakes with that kind of stuff over the last decade and a half?
Not just the left, but I'm going to take it a little bit higher and say government has made that mistake. There's been a lot of concentration of focusing on London and trying to build London as a financial capital. And I think that's been done at the detriment of other places. I'm a councillor in Leeds, so I should be trying to bring in as much industry and as much opportunities into Leeds as possible. There was talks of consolidating tax offices, and they were going to build a mega tax office in Leeds. But we've got Bradford right next to us. It's got all the infrastructure, but it's a declining city. Why not make those political choices, put that tax office in Bradford, create a load of opportunities over there, build that city up at the same time? There are opportunities to build everyone up. I don't think it's just a problem of the left. I think it's a problem of governance from the top down. They just haven't focused their energies where they need to. They focus their energies on shining stars like Leeds, like London, and they're quick wins. Whereas to change people's lives takes a lot of hard work, and that's just not being done.
Is Nigel Farage a fascist?
So I think he is, but I think he's an opportunist. You know, when we look at fascism, what is it? So fascism is about pointing at an external threat. Often comes discussing land, trying to preserve the rights to land, to preserve the rights of an indigenous culture from an external threat. And right now he parrots the narrative that immigrants, black and brown people, in particular Muslims, are the threat. I mean, last year we had riots across the country which he inflamed. This year he's talking about cancelling indefinite leave to remain. This is very personal for me. My wife is from Bangladesh. That's the mother of my children. You know, are you going to take a mother away from their children? Are you going to take a wife away from her husband? You know, are you going to break families? There's doctors, there's nurses, there's accountants, there's taxi drivers, there's every kind of industry that you can think of. People who have indefinite leave to remain are working in. Who are you actually targeting?
How long has she been in the country for?
My wife has been here since 2009.
I mean, presumably Farage would say that, well, she can get naturalised, you're married, she's been here a long time, it's not for people like her. That's what he would say.
I mean, she's safe now, she's got a British passport. But at any minute, those people automatically come under threat. And they're contributing to this country. Do you know, they're like my wife, she's raising the next generation. There's people who are contributing to all parts of society. So yes, there are going to be caveats for some people, but to make that as a policy and to try and threaten people and to say to white British people that by doing this we're going to get rid of black and brown people, or we're going to get rid of less immigrants. These are all the hallmarks of fascism.
He would say that I am saying these things because I'm responding to a public demand for those kinds of measures, like indefinite leave to remain, lower migration, lower numbers of refugees coming in. For instance, he said we would have accepted Ukrainians in Hong Kong. So he's not saying no refugees, but not, the present numbers from the present number of countries. We are doing that and reflecting a large body of public opinion, if not the majority of public opinion, precisely to stop fascists. Like, he wouldn't say Tommy Robinson's a fascist, but people like Tommy Robinson, or people to the right of Tommy Robinson. There are people to the right of Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson would say that a black guy can be British. There are other people that wouldn't say that. He would say, Farage now, I need to gain power, implement these policies precisely to stop those people to my right. I'm the firewall to stop the exact thing that Mothin Ali is talking about, which is fascism. How would you respond to that?
I'd say you're describing fascism. So now he's being a bit smarter in your scenario, because he's now pointing at a threat from the right as well as a threat from immigration and from the left. So that's a little bit more of a tactical play. But you talked about the public opinion being anti-migration for a second. Now let's just imagine a scenario where all the mainstream newspapers were talking about how great immigrants were. Do you know, if the Daily Telegraph ran a headline for weeks on end, immigration is so positive for the UK. The Daily Mail is running headlines saying mass immigration is helping the UK. It's the workforce, it's the engine for this country's growth. Let's just imagine a scenario where all the media was talking about that. All the politicians were talking about how good immigration was for this country. Now, do you think public opinion would follow that? Or do you think public opinion would say, no, we don't like immigrants? I'm of the opinion that public opinion would quickly change. Because whenever we have things like racism and we have these kind of issues, they're always pushed top down. Ordinary people are decent. Ordinary people are good at their hearts. And this is why I said at the start of this interview, is look at the conversation I have with people on my doorstep. On the doors, people are very different to what you see in the ether, right? As long as we can break that chain and provide a counter-narrative, I think we can give people hope that isn't based around division.
Final question, how many MPs are you going to get after the next general election? Rachel said 30.
I think Rachel's being a bit modest.
I think you're being modest. I was going to say optimistic.
No. I'm the energy I'm feeling, there's something magical happening in the Green Party at the moment. You know, that's the only way I can describe it. You know, that if you were in Zach's speech earlier, the atmosphere is electric. The amount of coverage we're getting, the amount of membership growth we're getting, it's just phenomenal. We just need to get our message across. And we've started, we're a month in, give us a year, let's see what we can do. But I think 30 is very modest. I'm not going to put a number on it, but I think 30 is very modest. I want to be a lot more ambitious than that.